Hello everyone, Luke here, and today in this video we're going to be talking about the characters in the Promised Neverland that have honestly suffered the most. I am of course talking about... Okay, calm down, but seriously, that still bugs me to this day that they could run that in weekly show jump, like the magazine that runs Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, okay, Death Note, yeah, I can see what, Bakuno, but, no, not Bakuno, Bakuman, but no, that was a Slice of Life series, but seriously, this image right here, how did they get away with this? But no, we're not talking about God. Oh, I'm sorry, Connie. I'm sorry. Okay, let's get rid of this image. Okay, but no, in all seriousness, we're going to be talking about the two characters that really, in all honesty, have suffered the most. I'm, of course, referring to the Nameless guy and Lucas. Now, what's interesting about these characters is that they are the first humans that, well, the first adult humans that the kids actually meet outside the plantation. Well, they meet the Nameless guy, which I'm going to get into him first, and then Emma meets Lucas later on down the line, and they're interesting because they're part of the old guard, the ones that were taken from their orphanages and put in Goldie Pond and basically made to be like cattle for the demons, like fun cattle, the ones that they could chase around and have hunts by. But yeah, let's get into the Nameless guy first. So he first appears when the kids find the shelter B32, I think it was called. Yeah, B6032, I think that was the name of the show. But yeah, they find him, and at first we think that, oh, this guy is going to be William Minerva, but it soon turns out it's not going to be. And he basically is like Ray and Isabella in the sense that he's given up and he just wants to live his life in the shelter, which I have to question as well. How did he survive all that time in that shelter? Because he was there for 13 years. How did he survive all that time with just the food in there? Because you think the food would have rotted away after a certain amount of time, but there could have been, for all I know, there could have been a storage area, like a freezer that he could have kept it cool. Possibly this explains why he actually was able to survive with water. Like, he probably had a freezer area where he could, like, freeze and then turn it into water, so he still had water. Or no, there was actually running facilities in there, so he still had water to keep him hydrated, so that he didn't dehydrate. But seriously, the food is a big question. Like, how did he survive all that time with food? Because the food would have gone off by that point. But whatever, that's the least of the problem. So basically, he threatens the kids, like, if you don't leave, I'm going to shoot you. But of course, Emma, being Emma, knows that he's not going to do that, and they eventually tie him up as they start to wind down after their long journey through the Promised Forest, which, by the way, we're going to be getting on to Songju and Musica. We're going to be talking about them as well at some point down the line. But yeah, as they're walking around, the kids find out, like, he's scraped his roll of poachers, and he scraped in all the names of all the kids that that he thinks have passed away, one of them being Lucas, which I like that, like, because that was when I first read the chapter when Lucas was first introduced and his name was Bob. I immediately thought back to the guy and thought, oh wait, this is the name of one of the guy's friends, so it'll be interesting to find out when they are actually going to meet up, which in the last chapter, him and Ray finally made it to Goldie Pond, and they are going to meet up, and I am waiting for that meeting. So yeah, after a while, he's eventually convinced to be the guide for Emma and Ray to get to Goldie Pond, to get to the human world. It takes some convincing, but he eventually comes around to the idea, because honestly, he really has nothing better to do with his life. So yeah, so he takes them to his underground shelter where it finds out, like, there's this whole armory. I'm going to repeat that. There's a whole armory to fight the demons. That is just awesome. So Emma picks up a bow and arrow, because obviously with the skills that she acquired with Song Ju. She uses that as her main weapon, and Ray finds some smaller guns, and so does Emma, and they set on their journey. And this image of them preparing to go out, that's one of the most badass images I've ever seen. Okay, so they eventually get outside and they eventually get into the forest, and the man is very much trying to, he's sort of going to betray them because he doesn't think that they're going to survive. Kind of like the same with Isabella and Ray, like he doesn't think Emma and Ray are going to survive. But sure enough, they do prove themselves, and the adventure starts to come around, and this all culminates with Emma getting captured and being sent into Goldie Pond. And so it's up to Ray and the Nameless guy to get into Goldie Pond to find Emma, to find out what's going on and what's happening. And eventually they do in chapter 85, at the end of chapter 85, they get in. The Nameless guy, he takes his gun, and showing his awesome skills as a sniper, he's able to kill Noma after absorbing Nameless. After absorbing Nameless first, and it just shows just how adept at that sniper he really is. So yeah, and I want to talk about him before we get on to Lucas, and just theories about him, like why they haven't mentioned his name yet. Because even when Lewis was talking to her about Lucas and about the past, the name is blotted out, and I can think of a few reasons for that. Okay, first of all, well, there's only one theory that I could possibly come to that actually would make sense to me in terms of this character. Okay, so level with me here. Okay, we know that Winnie Minerva's real name is James Rafferty, and he's part of the original line that made the promise between the demons and the humans, but he couldn't actually get involved with breaking the promise, but he was passing it down to other people so that they could break the promise for him, because he doesn't believe that that this should be going on for as long as it should be. So my theory is that the guy, he is connected to the Rafferty line, like he's connected to James and Peter Rafferty, like he's one of their distant relatives, and he noticed the same way as James that things were going south, and he noticed that this wasn't right. But instead of killing him, they actually put him in one of the orphanages to keep him quiet, and he was going to be cow for the demons as well, because they didn't want the promise to be broken, and let all hell break loose, because they've got this system set up now, and if somebody breaks it, then the whole system was crashing down. And he's probably part of the Rafferty line, because that's the only explanation that I can think of why they haven't mentioned his name yet. Like, it's building up to the part where it's like, oh shit, he's related to the Rafferty line. And if people are thinking like, oh, that's a bit skeptical, I don't really believe in that theory. Remember when I used to do the reviews, and I'm going back to doing the reviews, they're not gone. I'm waiting for a particular milestone that's coming up. You all know what it is. Okay, I'll just spoil it. It's chapter 100. That's when I'm going back to doing the reviews. Or when we finally find out the man's real name, that's when I'm going back to doing the reviews. But yeah, I'm coming back to it. But remember when I did the reviews, and remember when we saw the image, like this image right here of Isabella being pregnant, I reckoned that it was going to be Ray. And sure enough, this image right here, where we see Ray confirming that Isabella is his mother, I have some credibility, like theories in this series that I have thought of before have actually come true. So I reckon that this theory has some variable, because it's the only reason, like I said, it's the only reason why they haven't revealed his name, because you think that if it wasn't really that much important, they would have revealed it by now. The Wikipedia puts it as John, so it may be John Rafferty, but we don't know yet. So until we actually get clarification on his name, he's the Nameless guy or he's John, as the Wikipedia says. But yeah, I reckon he's part of the Rafferty line, and he saw things going south, and they didn't, and the demons and the humans and the Rafferty were like, oh, that's a big no, we can't have him, so we're putting him in one of the farms where he's gonna be bred to be cattle for the demons, and so yeah, he was put in the farm. He met Lucas, and they became, I would say, more than friends, almost like brothers, really. Because when they were in when we saw the flashbacks and we saw him escaping and thinking Lucas is dead, that's probably why he cut himself off, because from humans, and especially why he didn't want to get involved with the kids at first, because he didn't want them to suffer as well. He didn't want any more people to suffer in in the same way that he did, which is very similar to Ray as well. Like Ray didn't want his friends to suffer, so like he kept thinking what he knew to himself at first, until the truth was eventually blown out. But yeah, as soon as he gets into Goldie Pond and he finds out that Lucas is alive, we see him, honestly, the emotions coming out, and I can't wait for him and Lucas to meet, and we finally figured out what his name actually is. But yeah, that's the Nameless guy. And also, going back to another theory, I reckon he's related to Isabella and Ray. I reckon he's Isabella's brother. I reckon Isabella is part of the 49 as well. Because have you noticed how similar those three, how their personalities are? Like, all three of them have black hair, and they all have the exact same, pretty much the exact same philosophy of, we're giving up, we can't win, there's no point. But it's thanks to other people around them that they have this idea that maybe they could win, or maybe they could succeed in breaking this promise and getting things to a more compromisable position where humans are not cattle anymore, but demons can actually still have some sustenance to survive on. I reckon that's how the series is going to end. Like, there's going to be a compromise between the humans and the demons eventually. But yeah, I reckon that all three of them are related, and Ray is connected to the 49, Isabella's connected to the 49, and the Nameless guy is connected to the 49, because they have the exact same personality, they have the same coloured hair, and they were pretty much like distant from other characters in a sense. Like, they didn't really want to build relationships because they didn't want those relationships to be broken and to get all emotional. Like, they were very detached from people, and that's why I reckon that they're related. Ray and the man especially, I think, are related. I'm 99% sure that he is Ray's uncle and Isabella's brother. Like, just because of the way those two started out. Like, when we first introduced both of them, they just had a similar philosophy and a similar personality to each other. But yeah, anyway, that's the Nameless guy. I almost said homeless guy then. But yeah, that's the Nameless guy. So now let's get on to Lucas. Now, Lucas is a very interesting character because he's similar to Emma in the sense that he feels like everybody could survive, and Lewis actually saw something in Lucas that was very interesting, to the point that he was singling him out and singling him to succeed. And Lewis as well, like the Nameless guy, thought that Lucas was actually dead until it was like resurfaced that he's actually the underground leader of this resistance of kids that are fighting back against the demons. And once Emma joins and she finds out about all of this, she becomes part of the resistance as well, and they lead the charge against the demons. And before we get into that, we find out that all the stuff that happened with the Rafati line, that Emma has to return to Gracefield House to actually get into the human world, like it was there all along. So yeah, mate, that's going to be interesting to see how they do that, like how they actually get back to Gracefield House and get into the human world from that way. But yeah, Lucas is the leader of this resistance, and we've just concluded most of the major battles. Like, Bion has bit the dust, which after this video I'm going to be doing a whole video on Bion, so look forward to that. But yeah, and it was interesting because Bion was very arrogant about it all, but it was through Oliver's sacrifice, and that's going to be putting on the pressure of Lucas that he needs to get stronger. But yeah, they managed to succeed and get Bion and all the others to fear. So now it's only Lewis left, and like I said in the last video about Lewis, like how he's sort of like this guidance figure for Lucas and Emma, because we saw that flashback with Lewis, and how he was like, Lucas, my boy, come, I will show you how to defeat me, and I will give you these weapons as well. I'll give you all the time. I'll give you like 20 minutes to prepare yourself. And even though he knew all of that, Lucas still lost, and Lewis thought he was dead. But it was only until recently that it was surfaced that Lucas was alive, which made Lewis ecstatic and happy, because he reckons that Lucas is the only one that can give Lewis a fighting chance. Same with Emma, and I reckon what's going to happen between them is that we're going to have, like I said in the last video, we're going to have Emma, is because we've had in the last chapter we've had the time up for Emma, so now it's really, the next chapter is Emma versus Emma versus Lewis. I will be gobsmacked if they cut away from that. If they cut away from that fight that has been built up for so long, that they just cut away from it to focus on the man and Lucas. I feel like after the battle with Lewis, I feel like that's when we're going to find out exactly the relationship between these two. But well, we know the relationship between these two, but like just how much they've changed and how much they're wanting to talk to each other, because you know they want to talk to each other. If you like when Emma told him, yeah, this guy is alive, you see Lucas breaking down and he's like really glad that somebody other than him made it out alive. But yeah, so yeah, there's gonna be I reckon Emma, the next chapter is gonna be like focused on Emma and Lewis's fight, like, and Emma's gonna get cornered because, as you saw in the last chapter, like, Lewis was really fast, like he just appeared behind Emma, which was really surprising to Emma, that she didn't think Lewis would be able to do that. So I reckon it's going to be Emma and Lewis, and they're going to get into really tactical things, but Emma's going to have to really think on her feet because of just how fast Lewis is, and that's really going to test Emma's speed as well. Because she's the most athletic. It's really going to push her to her limits, and at that point it's going to be Violet. I reckon Violet's going to appear. Ray, the nameless guy, and Lucas, and basically everybody that's still in the fight is going to appear to help Emma fight Lewis at the end of the next chapter. And then the chapter after that is going to be like, oh, we'll probably find out then what the nameless guy's name is, probably, because they're still building on that. But yeah, so Lucas is he's a great guy, he's a great leader, and he's really understanding, but he just has but he still has that bit of Emma in him where he needs to like really push himself to be a leader, and I feel like in these chapters he's really been pushing himself that. And the nameless guy, I feel like, is going to be part of the 49, and we're going to find out some more explanations on that side of the family, because it's not just going to be like one branch of the family, there's going to be other branches to it. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video about these two characters because they're really interesting in the sense that they're the first adults that the kids and Emma find out about, that they actually did it before, like they actually made it so that they could live past the age of 12 or 13. So yeah, they're really interesting characters, and I'm looking to find out more about them in the future. I just wanted to get it off my chest of the theories that I had in regards to the nameless guy. But if I was going to talk about the nameless guy, I have to talk about Lucas as well, even if it's only very briefly, because they are just so connected to each other. Like I said, they're more than friends. I feel like they're more like brothers because of just the way that their emotions play off of the fact that they feel that each other is alive. So yeah, what do you guys think? What do you guys think of my theory about the nameless guy? And next time we're going to be discussing Bion, and after that we're going to be discussing Nameless and Noma, and then Luch, and then we're going to be talking about Songju and Mushina, and that will conclude my videos on the demons of the Promised Neverland, even though we don't know much about them because they really were only relegated to their respective battles. We have a lot that we can talk about them, like they all had different personalities. Like Luch was like the more childish one, Noma and Nomus, they're names that are the ones that I struggle with the most, and Bion, it was like the more stiff upper lip business type, not stiff but stiff upper lip, in charge of everything and very arrogant about everything. On a side note, before I go, that's another thing where I love about the Promised Neverland, how all the names are really mundane names. Like there's no arguments about how they're pronounced, which you get a lot of, which you can get a lot of times in anime and manga. You get characters that are really hard to pronounce, and people are like, no, it's this way, it's that way, it's this way and that way. But with this, you've got really mundane English names, really makes it easier to pronounce these names, and I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video about these two characters and how they're interesting, and next time we're going to be talking about Bion. I'll see you then.